Alright, and we are back. So on the last tutorial that we did, we went ahead and imported our weapon in. We set up the colliders, we have our bones set up, showed you different ways to get the collider set up. I didn't show you how to make the colliders, or necessarily how the colliders all mean. I'll get a little bit into that this time around. I know it's a little backwards for me to do it this time around, but we're going to go ahead and do that. So, before we do anything else, absolutely anything else with this, what we need to do is we need to make sure that this is sized up correctly and the bolt is in the correct position. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, we're going to type in M16A2. Since we're inheriting from the M16A2, we're going to go Arma Reforger, prefabs, weapons, and then we're going to choose which M16 from rifles that we want. I'm going to go with this base M16 that I have right here, rifle M16A2.entity. I'm going to navigate to this file, which of course I already had it open so I can navigate to it. I'm going to have to choose between inherit, duplicate, or override. The way this works is if you override, then that means that you're changing this base prefab. So if I wanted to edit this M16 in particular, I'd use override. And then this basically I could just completely replace the M16 off the server and it would just cease to exist on the server because it would be replaced with my gun. You can hit duplicate, which means that it's going to make a carbon copy of this weapon for me to fuck around with. Or I can hit inherit. In inherit, what that'll do is that will take the gun, it'll duplicate it, and then any changes that I don't make will remain the same and consistent through updates, meaning that if Bohemia edits this gun and they edit something on the gun that I did not edit on mine, it will update automatically to include that. For this in particular application, we're going to duplicate this to the... Let's go ahead, actually, yeah, we're going to do this one. We're going to duplicate this to the darker operator pack. We're going to call this XM7 AFG base. Well, the reason that you do base files is because that allows you to inherit from your own base file. So typically speaking, your inherit feature will be more important here. So for example, if I go through and do the other grips, I'll use inherit this time, and I'll do vertical or VG base. Or, well, we don't actually need to have base in that because it's not a base file. Don't want to confuse ourselves. So we open up our XM7 AFG base file, we hit edit prefab, we go to mesh object, click this button right here, and then you're going to find your XM7. Now it's important that you do set your file paths up in a way that's going to be easy to navigate them. It's going to be ridiculously important later on. If you used the M16 pattern in order to do this, you're going to have a couple things that you need to get rid of. So you're going to come over here to your attachment slots, find them, and you're going to come down to the bottom and hit enabled on the bottom. What this does is this disables these entirely so that they don't appear. We may go back and edit these, or we may go back and add more. If you're looking for Bacon Loadout Editor compatibility, typically you'll want to come back and add new positions. We don't really care about the rest of the settings right now because we're not actually building our prefab. What we're building is we're looking to make sure that this is sized appropriately, but this magazine may bother you. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to find muzzle component, scroll all the way down, see the magazine, scroll up until you see magazine position, magazine, save. Now if you don't have this window open over here, you can click window and find object properties up here and open it. Going back down, now that we've opened up this world, basically what you just saw me do is I click this, and I'm going to go Arma Reforger worlds, MP test. That opens up this test world for us to test in. We then need to open up the resource browser. We need to go to our prefabs, so we go to our mod file, prefabs, weapons, rifles, and we need to open up our XM7, drop in the world, click yes, drop in the world again, save. You're going to save this to your mod pack. And then we're going to put ourselves right down here. And we're we're going to open this up, take a good old gander, make sure this is sized correctly. In my application, I already checked this before, so I know that this is sized up correctly. Some things to note when you're doing this testing. There's another thing here that I'm not going to go through that is going to be important for you to note and look for. So it's difficult to see since everything's white, but the bolt is in fact in there. Okay, it is important that you pay attention. There's going to be a difference between your XOB and your prefab. Your prefab is going to have the bolt position where the bone is. So if all your bones are sitting down here, the bolt will be in some weird fuck off spot. You're going to have to go back into here. You're going to have to go to your armature. You're going to have to go to edit mode, and you're going to have to basically find your armature and move your bone around as such, and continue exporting until you get that bolt in the correct position. Again, if you do your own custom animation profile for the gun itself, that'll fix that. It's really not that difficult to do. It's just a little bit more time consuming. The neat thing about this is that if you're doing an AR pattern rifle and you already have your skeleton figured out, like I do here for the AR pattern rifle, this skeleton remains consistent no matter what. So the bolt is always going to be in the correct position because I have it all correctly done up already. It makes this really quick and easy. So we have this sized up correctly. We have the bolt in the correct position. We're done here. All right. What we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and prep the other aspects of the weapon prior to building our weapon and animating it and such. What we're going to do is we're going to come back over here and we're going to hide everything that is not important to what we're doing. So our gun itself, the gun is no longer important. Now the reason that the gun is no longer important for me is because I've already done up everything else. So things such as the magazine, it's already done up. Things such as the suppressor, it's already sized correctly. All right, so I don't need that stuff anymore. So or this stuff anymore, right? There's no reason for me to have the base rifle because I don't need to size anything to it. We're gonna go ahead and start off with our magazine. So with the magazine, it is helpful to have your point info ready. And we're going to go ahead and double check this. Excellent. So what you'll notice is that this in particular spot is where the magazine wants to meet up with. Now there's a number of different ways that you can do this. The best way to do this when you're first starting is to try and match the in particular position of this point info for the magazine. Okay, well, it wants to do that for some reason. Just go to global. That'll work. You want to try and match this dot right here up with the center of your scene. And the reason why is because Arma Reforger is going to position the magazine both in the character's hand, in his pouches, in the gun, with accordance with where this is in the blender scene. Meaning that your magazine will always have to be in a position where it's sitting slightly below the red line and the green line, with the front touching the interface right here. Alright, now this is important. You can change where the magazine meets up through here in order to make it fit inside your pouches or anything a little bit better, but it's going to loosely be around this, just as we can change where the magazine meets up in the gun using the point info modifiers inside Blender, and I will show you how to do that. So we have our point info sitting in the right spot, our magazine sitting in roughly the right spot. We can go ahead and get rid of our point info off of the scene. The only thing we have left is our magazine. Alright, our magazine, we're going to go ahead and do magazine.001 slot 0. Make sure our color set isn't on there. Make sure we get rid of the split normals. We don't need the armature modifier, but we do need decimate. Copy, paste it over. Whoa. Make sure that's active. Paste it over 4 times. 1, 2, 3. Don't need that there. Of course, these LODs are not perfect. They're not handmade. They're literally just monkey decimated. But the thing is that any LODs are better than no LODs. These LODs pretty much make a difference in the performance on your server. This looks great. So the next thing we're going to do. This needs a collider. It needs a collider so it can function through the world and have a thing called a rigid body component, which is necessary for this to function with the replication component, which pretty much is your multiplayer thing. So in order for this to not break the game and kill your server, this entire thing right here needs to have a collider. So we're going to make a collider. We're going to make what's referred to as a UBX prefix collider. UBX prefixes are rectangles or squares. So you come up here, add mesh cube. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to scale down and size this cube to match the magazine. Alright, gonna prefix this with UBX collider. You can set your collider up the same way that you did before. You can set it up in here. We're looking for the layer preset of Fire Geo, and then we'll just go ahead and do metal. Alright, now that that's done, we're going to export FPX, visible objects only. Custom properties on, no leaf bones, and make sure your bake animation is off. XM7 magazine. Right, cool. So we're going to go ahead and drop that stuff out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring our SIG suppressor in. Using the same ideal, we're going to bring our point info, and we're going to bring that along for the ride. And we're going to get our suppressor sitting kind of along here. Now, as you can see, the point info for this is sitting a little bit further ahead, meaning that we're actually going to want to do this. Now, this is just my knowledge of the way that our suppressors work on Darkroot and everything else. You really kind of want to center this along this, because all the suppressors meet up on this red line. For this in particular one, this is sitting at 940 vertices. You're actually not going to see me put a lot on this, I don't think. Actually, no. I'll do it for good measure. Suppressor.001 slot 0. Since I'm teaching you how to do this, we might as well go ahead and do it. But really, this is almost just unnecessary and overkill. This is already sitting at a nice little LOD rate. 2, 3, 4. Alright, we're going to check our LODs, make sure that they're not all just silly. I don't like that one. This one looks kind of neat. Alright, I don't like this one either. We'll go with these three. So we got our three, we got our UBX collider. We're just going to go ahead and reuse this same collider for this instance, because why not? I could switch over and use a collider that's not UBX. I could use something that fits along with this a little bit more, but the truth is that it really doesn't matter. This is going to be perfectly fine. Export, FBX, we have our same thing going on here, and this is going to be suppressor. Alright, now that we've got that done, we've got our suppressor, we've got our magazine. We need to make sure that we get our stock in next, since this in particular firearm utilizes the stock systems. Fuck it. Let's go with this one. Void. And we're just going to follow the same ideal. Whenever you're doing something like this, you could go through, you could make a bunch of crazy colliders, reality speaking. Like I said before, you really don't. You could just do your collider up like this. That's exactly what I'm going to do in this instance. Alright, these look great. We're going to go with... And I forgot to come down here and hit the clear split before I did all that, so I got to do it all again. And I forgot to add the modifiers, so I got excited. Then our collider is right there. Cool. Export, FBX. Now I'm not going to go through and do all of the stock options that I have put together in this instance. It's just not worth you seeing. The truth be told, I have all this other stuff over here that I can you know, do up and etc, etc, but I think at this point I've kind of made the point, so I'm going to do the rest of this off camera. What I am going to do though is I am going to come back over here. Now you can set up another folder for this stuff if you want it, or you can throw it all into the same folder. It quite frankly doesn't matter as long as you can navigate appropriately. So we're going to go documents, and I need to follow my file path that I put down for this. And I don't need this for receiver, but I need all this stuff. I'm going to bring this in. Now all my colliders and everything are set up, but I still need to come in and I still need to do my re-import even though I set up the colliders, I still need to come over and hit export skinning. Okay, excellent. So, in the final bit of preparation that I'm going to go ahead and tag on this video, this is probably one of the scarier things inside this entire endeavor that you're going to have to do. You're going to need, let's make sure that this is correct. It's not. So I need to... Now this isn't really something that you're going to get the chance to be able to do, is duplicating and getting your little cheat code on this script, but the pretty much the wonder why it didn't go underneath generated. Oh, because it went under weapon. Okay. You need to create a file path called scripts game weapon. All right, from there you're going to start it. You're going to click this button for create new script, and you're going to create a script. Name it whatever it is that you want to name it. Okay, so normally... Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and take a look in here. Show you this in Bacon's, because I believe Bacon's... So, effect component, we don't care about that. Attachment action, so Bacon doesn't have that in there. He's using base game. Alright, I'm going to have to go grab the script because this is unfortunately not something that I... well, actually, let's see. Let's see if this is correct. Yeah. I'm accustomed to seeing the script differently. I'm not a scripter. I have a script put out for the attachment points. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this right here. Make sure that you make your script. That's going to be important. And we'll come back. I'll have the actual script brought up so we can just go ahead and plug that in there and we'll move on from there. But right now that was just the importation of your necessary attachment points. So we got our suppressor in, we got our magazine in, and we have our stock in, and that's going to be important to us building the rest of this gun. The next step is going to get the scripts ready to go, and then we'll work on getting our textures ready to go, and then once our scripts are set up and our textures are set up, we'll go ahead and actually start building the weapon.